We are just beginning to glimpse the bare outlines of an emerging new economic system, the collaborative commons. This is the first new economic paradigm to emerge on the world scene since the advent of capitalism and socialism in the early 19th century. So it's a remarkable historical event. It has long-term implications for society. But what's really interesting is the trigger that's giving birth to this new economic system. The trigger is something called zero marginal cost. Now, marginal costs are the cost of producing an additional unit of a good and service after your fixed costs are covered. Business people are all aware of marginal costs. Most of the public isn't. But this idea of zero marginal cost is going to dramatically, intimately affect every single person in the world in the coming years, in every aspect of their life. There's a paradox deeply embedded in the very heart of the capitalist market system, previously really undisclosed. This paradox has been responsible for the tremendous success of capitalism over the last 2 centuries. But here's the irony. The very success of this paradox is now leading to an end game and a new paradigm emerging out of capitalism, this collaborative commons. Let me explain. In a traditional market, sellers are always constantly probing for new technologies that can increase their productivity, reduce their marginal costs so they can put out cheaper products and win over consumers and market share, beat out their competitors, and bring some profit back to investors. So business people are always looking for ways to increase productivity and reduce their marginal costs. They simply never expected in their wildest dreams that there would be a technology revolution so powerful in its productivity that it might reduce those marginal costs to near zero, making goods and services essentially free, priceless, and beyond the market exchange economy. That's now beginning to happen in the real world. So economists have come back recently, they said, all right, we understand that information goods are moving toward near zero marginal cost, devastating the newspaper industry, magazines, book publishing, etc. But there's a firewall here. That this near zero marginal cost phenomena on the internet, it won't pass the firewall into the physical world of physical goods and services, the brick and mortar world, the world of energy and physical products. That's no longer the case. There's a new technology revolution coming online that's making it possible for millions and soon hundreds of millions and eventually billions of people to not only produce and share their own information goods, but now energy and physical goods. And it's called the Internet of Things. This is the expansion of the Internet. And it's all happening in the last 12 months. Now, this is a pretty new phenomenon. What's going on here is the traditional Internet that we're also familiar with is now converging with a very fledgling energy Internet and a nascent logistics and transport Internet. And as these three Internets come together, they're creating a single operating platform, a nervous system, a sort of intelligent brain. And they're taking this brain and they're attaching sensors now across the entire value chain of the economy to feed into this three Internets: energy, communication, and logistics. So right now, we have 13 billion sensors out there connecting appliances and things with human beings. We have sensors connecting resource flows in nature. We have sensors at warehouse and distribution centers. We have sensors on smart roads monitoring traffic. We have sensors on the factory floor constantly keeping up-to-date information on the flow of production in the factories. We have sensors in the front and back office, sensors in retail stores. We have sensors all across the system feeding big data back. What's interesting is 13 billion sensors now. IBM says in 2020 we'll have 30 billion sensors connecting everything with every being. And by 2030, the most recent forecast, we'll have 100 trillion sensors connecting all of us in one vast lateral neural network made up of three operating engines: a communication Internet converging with an energy and a logistics Internet. And let me say one more thing about these three engines. When you look back at every society, their economic platforms always contain three elements: a form of communication, a form of energy to power society, and a form of mobility to move economic activity. This expansive Internet, this Internet of Things, brings us to a third industrial revolution. And the form of communication is the Internet. The form of power is renewable energy, distributed renewable energy. And the form of mobility is driverless, automated vehicles, logistics, and automated drones. So what we're seeing is just the first inklings of this new platform, these three Internets in one. And what this allows us to do is any consumer can become a prosumer, just like we did with information goods on the old Internet, access this new Internet of Things, and have available to us a complete stream of data from every part of the economy. That means you and I, small cooperatives, small businesses, large companies, if it keeps its network neutrality, we all have equal access, like we did with the Internet. So we can go up on this Internet of Things now, and we can take that big data flowing through the system from the devices all the way to these three Internets, and any of us with our own apps and our own mobile technology will be able to use the big data and combine it with analytics to create our own algorithms, just like the big guys at Google. And it won't be rocket science because those apps will be programmed for us. So we can create our own apps with our mobile technology, using that big data to dramatically increase our productivity, reduce our marginal cost in the production of physical things like energy and 3D printed products. That's already begun.
All right, so what's it look like to wear glass, you might ask? Well, as this picture shows, it gives a pretty good idea of what I see when wearing glass. It's called vignetting, and essentially, rather than having an immersive augmented reality experience all around me and looking through words and information, I instead just simply have a screen that's projected right above my right eye. And while wearing glass, that screen appears to be about 30 to 40 inches and say 3 or 4 feet away from your face. So it's decent size, but it's not overbearing. And again, it kind of gives more contextual information for the user. So that's important to notice, important to note. when I'm trying to kind of show you this live demo here, what you're seeing on the screen is simply what would be inside that smaller box right above your right eye. When using glass, you can interact with it in one of two ways. You can either talk to it, or you can touch the trackpad on the side. Now, talking to glass would require the activation of a hot word, so the glass knows you're talking to it. You're not just talking to another individual on the street or to yourself or on a phone call. And then once that hot word is activated, then you will be presented with a variety of options and submenus of which you can then say those hot words to activate an application. It's all really, really simple and very intuitive. And people that try on glass, get the point and get the gist of it very quickly. So let's first turn on glass, and to do that, you can either raise your head slightly or tap on the side. And so that brings up this home menu. And the home menu has the time and the hot words displayed below. Saying those hot words will then bring up the next menu for giving me options of which applications I can then go into. From this home screen, I can either swipe to the left to see events in my future. I currently do not have any events on my calendar today. If I did, you would see them there. So you can see that the Rockies and Cubs are playing tonight. If I wanted to, I could tap in and do a preview, get a preview of the game, a scouting report. I can also swipe over and say to dismiss this notification, so I no longer see anything related to it for the rest of the day. If we keep swiping to the left, we can see the weather, current weather here in Denver, as well as the precipitation chance. And this is all in real time. It will update throughout the day. You can also tap in and see a forecast. Let's do just that. You can see that tomorrow, Thursday and Friday, and kind of gives you the 3-day outlook of what is on the horizon. So we'll go ahead and dismiss that. And is now telling me that it's been dismissed, and I will no longer get notifications on that weather. So I also have a Explorer application always running that notifies me of nearby events, if I have upcoming concerts or civic events, that type of thing, and is always giving me kind of a live update of what might be going on here. So if you go back to the home screen, all of those items were to our left, and if we go to our right, we then see things that have happened in the past. So about 7 minutes ago, I have missed a call. I could tap on to call that person back, and what you're seeing is no picture and no name because that person is not in my registered contacts. If they were, you'd see a nice big picture and a notification of who they were. So next is an email came in. Looks kind of like a spam. I guess I can get a new loan from these guys if I'd like, but essentially this is how an email looks when it comes in. It's telling me who it's come from. If their picture is in my contacts, it would show above. It's showing me below. It's that it's addressed to myself. If I want to read more, I can do that. I can also reply at this point, and I can archive it, have it read aloud to me, start, and go ahead and delete that email. Let's choose that one. Again, I have a variety of applications that come into Glass right now, and some of those are news applications. So what we're seeing here on the screen is a New York Times news article that's come in, and I can have that read aloud to me. You guys wouldn't be able to hear right now because the speaker on Glass is a bone conductive speaker. So what that means is that the audio is vibrated essentially right into your skull using the bone right behind your ear. It doesn't actually use over-the-air sound waves, but rather uses that bone conductive method. And it works really well for notifications and simple reading of articles. It's not the greatest for phone calls or listening to music, but that can be overcome with a couple other options. All right, so then I'd like to show you a couple other uses for Glass, day-to-day tasks that come in helpful. It kind of gives you a sense of how you interact with Glass and what type of things you can use it for. So if we begin by bringing up the home screen, we can say, okay, Glass, Google, how far is it to the moon? And Google will query and return with a card of the most likely search results for you. If you were to hear in my ear, you would also know that it is dictating the response to me, which is really handy if you're out and about throughout daily life. You have a question, you're curious about something, simply ask a question to Google, and just like you do on your computer, the response comes back in real time. All right, here, let's try getting directions from Glass. So if we pull up the home screen and say, OK, Glass, get directions to home, Google remembers common places that you go throughout your day. No need to input them in, but it knows where I work, where my home is, where my project site is, any other locations that I frequent. So as you can see on the screen, the directions will come up, and it remembers that most recently I asked for walking directions, so that's what it's giving me now. And as I look around, the map is going to update. As I would walk down the street, it would show when my next turn is, let me know when a direction change is needed, and then update with the total travel time of what my anticipated arrival is. Comes in extremely helpful. Say I don't want walking directions, rather let's look at the overall route first. This will give an idea of where we start and where we're headed to, the total time, and how long it expects that journey to take me. I can jump back to the map, and I don't really feel like taking 2 hours to get home, so let's see what the transit directions are. It's going to pop up with the next train, and looks like, yeah, it's a bit better. It's about 35 minutes to get home that way. So we'll go ahead and select that. We can go to a step-by-step, and it will now tell me when I should leave, start walking, what extent of that is going to be on the train, which train to board, and then where I should walk to from that point on. And if I leave this alone, it will update as I begin the journey and tell me the anticipated train arrival, any delays to that train, and things like that. It comes in extremely helpful, and I use it on a daily basis. So then finally, I wanted to kind of show you a application that takes a little more use of augmented reality. There are applications that I can be walking down the street and see what restaurants and different types of businesses are inside of buildings. I can simply tap on them, get reservations, get phone numbers, you name it, and start to interact with my physical world a bit more smartly. But for the sake of this demonstration, let's take a look at the stars. So if we open up the home screen again and say OK Glass, take a look through our options, explore the stars. A map of all of the stars overhead will appear for us. And so you can lay out in your grass, in your lawn chair with your kids, yourself, and start to take a look at what the constellations are overhead. And hovering over a star will let you know exactly what star it is. And then certain stars will give you an audio readout telling you the story about that star and pertinent information. And I just find this one fascinating. I think it's so cool to be able to visualize kind of these constellations and different shapes above you. And as a kid, I think it would just be fascinating to just learn about everything that's out in front of you in real time. There's no need to switch back and forth between a book or go through maps. You simply gaze, and this information is being overlaid in front of you, and you can learn in real time. All right, so lastly, what I'd like to show you here is the application that I've developed for Glass, custom application for DLR Group, tying into the Newform API, among a couple of the other databases that we use here internally. And what it's able to do is project our project information to us in real time to keep the project team up to date and more in line and more in tune with all that is rapidly changing and going on in the project. So essentially all you need for the application to work is a DLR plan. And this would assume that we would start to use a QR code in our title block. What you see on the screen is a typical plan sheet, floor plan of ours with a QR on there. And this would allow the application to register that plan and then begin to feed this information to us from these live sensors at various points in the databases and the models that we use in the email and Newforma project information tracking systems that we already have in place utilizing today. So to utilize the application, we'll go ahead and turn on Glass. And we would say, okay, Glass, recognize this. And then start to look at a plan on the screen. We would look down at a QR code and it would scan. And then we would be presented with the following screen. Should the document that we have just scanned be the most current version, you get a nice prompt instructing you that that is the case. This is not, though. There has been an issuance following the sheet that we've just scanned. And what we're seeing is an animation of the changes before and after. Red being what they were, and blue being what they are currently. So again, red is what we have just scanned. If we were taking a look at the sheet, if the contractor was building off the current sheet, the blue information on the screen in front of us is what they would be missing. And for us, say we're doing a site walk or we get a call pertaining to a sheet, we can see exactly what has changed and easily zoom in and out of this to better recollect what has actually changed and what the current status of that area of the project is. So then if you are to tap through, we would also see that we have 2 outstanding emails, a couple RFIs, 1 action item, and then what the current version of this plan is in front of us. So we can continue to tap through, and we would see that first initial email from my mechanical engineer. It shows both of our pictures, the first couple words of the email, and I could further tap into it to read the entire email, or I could reply to the email directly from Glass here. We can continue on and see that we have another email from my electrical engineer, again, showing a brief description of what is within the email. I could do the same type of actions, reply in line right now, or simply wait until I get back to the office, but know that the issue is currently open. We have a third email here from the project PM on the contracting side, same type of options. We also see here that we have an RFI open. This is showing that it's coming from the project soup. It's again going to give a description of what's going on. If there's a suggested solution, it would also be within there. If another member of my design team has responded back and this is a pending response, I would see that in here as well. Again, I can tap through, choose to respond and close out, respond and forward on to another member of my team, or any of a variety of different options here within the app. We'd also see that we have a second RFI open that pertains to this specific sheet. It's important to note all of this content is applicable to the sheet that I have scanned. So while it was an architectural sheet that I did scan, it also pertains to this plumbing sheet as dictated in the RFI here. So the issues know where they relate as it relates to what you have scanned and what type of information you're currently searching for. Lastly, we would see that there are a couple action items open here as well. This one is actually my own action item. Looks like I need to verify some lock functionality. It does a zoomed in view of what area of the plan is being called out and what that action pertains to. So if I'm on site, it's a little more easy for me to identify exactly what it's talking about, what it's pertaining to. And again, I can go in verbally here and through the gestures on Glass, answer that action item, close it out, or flag it for further follow-up once I get back to a computer. And so that's really the gist of the application. But more than anything, what I wanted to show was the ability to start to utilize all this big data in a practical sense with systems that we already currently have in place here at DLR. I think this is just the tip of the iceberg, and we have so very, very many possibilities for different uses of this type of application. Thank you so much.